Good evening and welcome to the Parks and Recs Commission meeting of May 8th, 2004. This meeting is being conducted with a virtual component. Anyone wishing to address the commission virtually may join the meeting online at https://mountainview.com.us/J/850-274-81875 or by dialing 669-900-9128 and entering webinar. The ID is 8027481875. When the chair, that's me, announces the item on which you wish to speak, click the raise hand feature in Zoom or dial *9 on your phone. When the chair calls your name to provide public comment, if you are participating via phone, please press *6 to unmute yourself. And with that, I will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Allison, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, we have Commissioner Mitchner,
Here.
Commissioner Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Subner,
Chair.
Chair Summer, Vice Chair Davis,
Yeah.
and Commissioner Felios.
Here.
All present.
Great, thank you. Now we'll move to item 3.1, the approval of the minutes for the February 14th, 2004 meeting.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Does anyone have any suggested edits at all? All right. We will, since there's no suggested edits, we'll move to public comment. Does anyone wish to comment on the meeting minutes? If you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand or press *9.
We have no hands.
Okay. Great, no comments on that. Now we'll go to the commission, since we had a motion and second, to conduct a roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryant.
Yes.
Chair Summer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Felios.
Yes.
Great, so the motion to approve the minutes carries 5-0. And we will now move on to item 4, oral communications for the public. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on a matter not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and state law prohibits the commission from acting on non-agenda items. Shall we start with virtual speakers? If you're interested in commenting on non-agendized item, please click the raise hand or press *9 on your phone. There's a 3-minute limit for each speaker. And Allison will give a 1-minute warning. Staff will not respond to public questions during the comment period.
We have no hands.
No hands online. Do we have anyone in person who wishes to speak on a non-agendized item? Great, thanks for filling out the blue card. Bill Lambert.
You could bring up the first slide. So my name is Bill Lambert. I'm a 22-year resident of Mountain View and live in the Montaloma neighborhood. So talk to people about shoreline community. To a member of the Audubon Society, it seems like it's one big burrowing owl habitat. To a golfer, it's one big golf course. Concert goer, it's all about concerts. So I thought to myself, really, what is shoreline and how is land used over there, since land is such a precious commodity in Mountain View? So I ran through the numbers. I'm sure they're close enough for any conclusion. We're not going to change things by, orders of magnitude here. As you can see from this first slide, what I did is put the areas, the green areas are sort of what I would call recreation areas, what we normally think of fields and hiking trails, lumping those in. The blue areas are more like special uses like shoreline amphitheater, the golf course, shoreline lake. Orange is protected areas and marshes and parking lots. And parking lots and roads are another aspect. Once you move to the next slide, this is in acres, the next one is in percentages. You know, as you can see, that golf courses take up a significant area in the Shoreline Community District. You know, somewhat surprisingly, the parking lots, when I came to this, and the roads really take up an enormous amount, as much as the protected areas and marshes. You know, to have that that amount of parking area that is vacant most of the time is and unused is really something to think about. We just can't afford, as I see it, to have uses like that. Go to the next slide to sort of move quickly because you've read it already, I'm sure, and you can ponder it later. I only have 3 minutes.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay, we'll really move here. This is interesting because pay for use. A lot of the area in North Shoreline is pay for use. And really, this is inaccessible, therefore, to a great number of residents of Mountain View who really can't afford the fees or you know, aren't interested in those very special uses. Go to the next slide, please. And this one really compares the land use in North Shoreline with a lot of the other big sort of comparable areas, what we think about as parks. I think what's really interesting to me is the parking lots in Shoreline are more than the number of acreage of fields in the Mountain View Wisman School District and the total of Mountain View owned city parks. That's really quite something. I will conclude with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on non-agendized item? All right, then we will close the oral communications from the public and move on to item 5, new business. Which item 5.1 is the fiscal year 2024-25 Parkland Dedication Fund recommendation. And the staff presentation will be from Community Services Director John Marshall.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. This agenda item was prepared for and originally was going to be presented by Lindsay, our senior admin analyst. She unfortunately fell sick and as a matter of fact is at home with COVID at the moment. So she is on the mend, but was unable to participate tonight. So therefore I'm going to take it on. So tonight we're going to talk about Parkland Dedication Fund commitments for the upcoming fiscal year. And then as part of tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about the overview of some of the completed and active CSD projects. If you can go to the next slide.
Still loading.
Let's give it just a minute to think.
Loading.
Well, I can talk about the agenda items even before we get to any significant slides. So we will review some of the completed and active projects that we have currently. A brief Parkland Dedication Fund update, fiscal year 24-25 projects, and then some of the future projects we have on the horizon.
Oh, there we go.
Go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So since our last meeting to the PRC in January, first 2 projects are at Sylvan, Sand Volleyball Court and Trellis. Those were completed earlier this year, and those are in the Sylvan Dale planning area. If you haven't been out there, great reuse of an area that was previously a horseshoe pit that wasn't very well utilized. and really incorporates well into the park. And then the trellis bringing in not using actual lumber for the trellis anymore, but something that will remain for a long time and not be susceptible to wood rot. And our wisteria plants that we planted are growing and hopefully will look like the previous ones soon. The next slide shows the Colony Street connection to Permanente Creek Trail. That was completed in April of 2024. And then the next slide gets into some of the active parkland dedication fund projects, either in design or construction. So many of you have seen the Rangsdorf Aquatic Center. We just completed another walkthrough today to talk about a grand opening sometime this summer. So this next week and a half is really going to be critical for us and the timing of a grand opening. So hopefully everything goes well, and we'll be able to get out some dates of a grand opening coming this summer. Magical Bridge, also at Rangsdorf, continues to be in construction. Significant amount of concrete has already been poured. Due to the heavy rains this winter, that we do see some delays. We're also waiting on a confirmation date for the prefabricated restroom of when that will be prepared to come on site. So that will determine some of our next steps. Hopefully we will be able to open either late winter, most likely early winter to late winter is basically where we're at right now. The pickleball feasibility study will be coming to you next month. And so we have completed some public outreach, and then it'll be coming to you next month for further consideration. Evelyn Park is expecting to go out to bid for construction this month, with contract execution this summer. Construction should take around 10 months to complete. And then Villa Chiquita is just a few months behind and should go out to bid for construction in a few months. Oh, there's more. Wisman Sports Center and Mountain View Sports Pavilion renovations. So the re-roofing was complete at the Sports Pavilion, and other components are still being worked on, including replacement of the HVAC systems at both facilities. And then finally, Cuesta Fitness Court construction contract is awarded, and the demolition should be starting soon. And we have a completion date by the end of June to wrap that up. So tonight's action is to provide a recommendation to commit parkland funds to a new project for the upcoming year. Before we get into that, a little bit about an overview of Parkland Fund. Last June, Council committed $8 million in Parkland funds for CIP projects. This included the two gyms that I just talked about, the pickleball feasibility study, but also some construction dollars, as well as the San Rafael Avenue Park design and construction. And then since then, a total of $154,000 has been committed to Mora Park. If you remember, we originally were looking to receive community development block grant funds, and we were not successful with that. And so we added additional funds to that project. And since last May, the last time PRC committed project funding, the Parkland Fund has received new fees totaling a little over $1 million. And there is currently around $43 million in uncommitted fees before any action taken tonight. So the next slide shows each of the planning areas, the uncommitted funds, and the remaining balance at right around 43 million. And then the next slide shows the Parkland Acquisition Fund. That we have funds dedicated toward land acquisition within each of those planning areas. So tonight's action is to make a recommendation to commit funds to one project in the next fiscal year, which is the Eagle Park Pool improvements. This project is considered to be a citywide benefit. The total cost of this project is listed at $1.8 million. The project was originally scheduled for 2 fiscal years out from now, but given the timing of the Ringstorff Park Aquatic Center coming online and some of the needed repairs for Eagle Park Pool and the timeline it will take to execute some of the design in advance of the construction, we're moving the timeframe up a little bit to this next fiscal year, 24-25. And some of the improvements shown on the next slide are detailed in the staff report, but include a deck replacement, which is currently cracked and deteriorating, pool plastering, which typically takes place every 10 to 15 years. The last time it was replastered was 2001. The replacement of the underwater pool lighting, the current light fixtures are not working properly. And then removal and relocation of diving boards. If you have been out there recently, the 3-meter diving board is actually on a concrete plaster platform, which is deteriorating and deemed unsafe at this point. So the fact that we will have a 3-meter diving board at the new facility at Ringstorff, we are recommending taking out this one, but keeping the 1 meter and just moving it into a more beneficial location. And then the final one is the replacement of the bulkhead. And this is a movable piece of equipment that allows us to convert the pool to either a 25-yard or 25-meter configuration, and allows different uses of the pool. The current bulkhead recently has become non-operational, requires full replacement. So we were in a situation earlier this year, we were in a position to move it. And it took staff many, many tries to get it back in place. And that's, we were told we better not move it again unless we get a new one. So it really is in need of some replacement. So in the next slide, we talk about the future parkland projects that we have slated. This is just an overview, and these projects will be brought to the PRC and council for funding in the future. And just a reminder that this was kind of an off year for the CIP with minimal changes being looked to be made at one time. Next year will be the full review of the CIP. So more to come on that. And so finally, with the recommendation tonight being to provide a recommendation to City Council to appropriate the $1.8 billion from the Parkland Dedication Fund to the Eagle Pool improvement projects. And if you have any questions, I am fortunate to have a slew of staff here tonight to answer any of the questions you may have. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Marchand. So let's start off, do any of the commissioners have comments or questions? What if you could kind of save most of the deliberation aspect to later, but Commissioner Mitchell raised his hand first.
So what I just wanted to clarify, so the 1.8 million would be coming out of the 3.9 million in citywide.
Correct.
Committed.
Yes.
Is that correct? And that would leave enough theory for the pickleball court construction. Is that, or you'll get new money from the council or something
We
like
will
that?
cross that road when we have some of those cost estimates. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Bryant, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. So, basically this project is maintenance. Isn't there like a maintenance fund, the way Public Works does a maintenance fund?
So we have talked to our in-house facility staff. And it was determined that this is beyond regular maintenance. This is now renovation. And so that is why we are looking to use capital dollars. This is no longer minor maintenance at this point. This is a significant renovation to actually pull out concrete, redo the concrete and other items. So we're able to get a number of things done at one time.
Thanks. Commissioner Felius.
Just forgive me if I've asked this before, but looking at the funds chart, it was my understanding at one time that there's a limit on the number of years we have to spend these funds. Are we in danger of losing any of these funds? And, in those particular areas, in the near future?
We are not.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, just a quick clarification in my eternal quest to understand the budgeting fiscal process. So your second or third slide had parkland fee projects. Were those projects listed entirely funded through the parkland dedication funds?
Yes.
Thanks.
I have two questions. I know that you're not in the design phase yet, but Director Marchant, do you have a like rough back of envelope estimate of how long the pool would be out of commission while these improvements are being, will be like a full summer season? Or?
We don't know at this time. We do need to go through the design process to see how we can line up all of the trades to make this as effective as possible. Our thought and hope is we'd be starting the design process in the next fiscal year and going out to bid prior to summer to schedule construction after our busy season. So if everything goes to plan, I think it was fall 2025 that we would hopefully be starting the project.
So it sounds like you're saying that you would keep in mind the busy season for the
Yes.
pool and work to avoid that time. with
Yes.
pool construction.
Yeah,
Okay.
and with the opening of the new Ringsport Park Aquatic Center, a lot of our traditional year-round programs that take place at Eagle Park Pool are moving to the new facility. And Eagle Park Pool, although will remain open year-round, it'll be mainly used by our rental user groups during what we call the off-season. And so we'll be able to work with them to provide them some pool space at the Ringsport Park Aquatic Center so that we can take this time to
Okay.
overhaul the facility.
Okay, that sounds pretty thoughtful. And then I also had a quick question about the chart and the map. Director Marchand or one of you, could you just comment on how the process of updating that with the Park and Rec strategic plan and when that is and you know, roughly anticipated to become available used for this type of
Sure.
activity, you know, this type of planning, the
Yeah.
dedication, land dedication.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that. So right now we are looking at what we call the levels of service when it comes to park access within the city through the strategic plan. And right now we're in the phase of inventorying everything to ensure that we're not missing out on open space that's available to the public. So that's one aspect that we are looking at. What again is our current acreage that we're reporting. And so that attachment 1 will be updated to reflect what has been added. In addition, there are tasks associated with updating and reviewing the plan ordinance, but also looking at the planning areas and looking at what our requirements are as far as how many acres per, or residents or whatever the calculations are. I feel we'll be really entering that phase in the fall. Right now, we are wrapping up the community input side. And so we'll know more in the coming months of when exactly that will be. We're still aiming to have the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan to both the Parks and Recreation Commission and City Council in the late fall. If things need be, it might move over to Q1 of 2025. But from there, we should have a plan in place for us to reference as we move forward with next year's CIP process.
Great, so I think it sounds like this will be the last time we use these two charts for our Parkland Education Fund conversation.
It's possible. There's also the Nexus study related to the Parkland ordinance that will take place if funded. That could also influence it as well.
Sure, okay, great, thank you, that answers my question. Are there any further questions anyone has? Jonathan? Okay.
One other question on this. I would hope that before we discard this completely, we could see it with the 2020 population estimate in there, because otherwise if we see both the new population and the new space at the same time, we're not going to know necessarily impacts of the two different areas. So it'd be nice to at least memorialize this with the 2020 population before it gets progressed.
And then I just had a clarification question, pivoting off your question. Am I understanding that the actual planning areas may be adjusted or?
We will review. We're not sure yet.
So possibly, but not determined.
Thank you. All right, I think the commission is done with questions, so now we'll move to public comment on item 3.5.1. Would anyone in attendance wish to make a comment on this item?
I have one hand online.
Okay,
Yes,
all
so
right.
we have Bruce
I
England.
don't see anyone in attendance, so that we've got a raised hand on the virtual aspect, and there's a 3-minute limit for each speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce England, Wisman Station Drive, speaking for Green Spaces Mountain View, and I got one comment also for Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition Mountain View team. So looking at this document, there's only one choice, and so I'll say I was puzzled that there would only be one choice because it doesn't give PRC much of an opportunity to weigh multiple projects against each other, although there was a list in the presentation of future projects. Having more than one choice tonight seems like it would be a logical thing to do, so I'm not sure how that plays out. And then other listed projects in the presentation, they look to me to be mostly hardscape, structural, and related to dedicated activities as opposed to just open space for people to use as they wish. It would be nice to see a balanced, list between those different kind of things, since people use the park space for different kind of things, as you know. On the Callahan Park lighting in particular, we feel very strongly that no lighting changes should be made until the dark skies initiatives and the new rules are established, and there's no date set for that yet. Those ought to be just put on hold until that happens. There might be, for future plans, there might be money coming through the potential revenue bond measures that City Council is discussing on the 14th. And of course, we won't know what happens with the voting until the fall, and then budget decisions will be made through the city the following year. So there's a lot going on there. More money might be coming in, which would be great news across the board, but it also might affect your decisions about various projects that come along. It was already mentioned that the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan, there's a tie-in there. There's also a tie-in with the Active Transportation Plan, which is being worked on because people who are taking advantage of active transportation in Mountain View.
1
like
minute.
that. Thank you very much. I'm closing in. People who are using active transportation need the infrastructure. They need a lot of adequate restrooms, water fountains, hydration stations, and things like that. I've said this a number of times, we're really running short of those things. So seeing projects related to that would be good. And lastly, I don't know if this is related to the project you're looking at because that's about the pool, but the restrooms next to the pool that also serve the park, they're in pretty shoddy shape, and having some money put into making improvements there and repairs and so on would be good. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. England. Are there any other commenters online that, if there are, please raise your hand or *9 on your phone.
I don't see any others.
All right, there's no further commenters online, no further commenters in person. So now we will turn back to the commission for deliberation. Would you like to start, Commissioner Felios?
Sure. Knowing a lot about that pool and knowing a lot about pools, just with my background, it's well overdue. As they mentioned, 2001 was the last time plastered, and just with my knowledge of pools, that's a long time for a pool not being replastered. And once your lighting goes underneath, that's your electrical, it becomes a little bit of problematic. I mean, electricity underneath the water level, and certainly the deck. Most pools are redecked in a more timely fashion, to be honest with you. I remember when it opened, it was a gem, and it still is, as far as conceptually, a gem, but it's just in disrepair. And the bulkhead becoming a problem just compounds things. Mr. England's comments, I hadn't even thought about the actual the structure itself. I think that if at all possible, including a look at the structure and things that need be maybe more than just repainting, But you know, with retiling or looking at those type of things should also be looked at. If we're gonna put that kind of money into the pool, which I think the use certainly justifies it. I think we should also look at that. Because like I said, when it opened, it was a gem. It was a gem for a long time. It's just been a long time since it's been attended to.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Davis, do you have any thoughts?
I have thoughts and questions about about the planning area and the general parkland dedication use, but regarding the specific action item, I support the allocation of $1.8 million for the pool improvements. And I think I appreciate Commissioner Filios's comments and would support anything that ties into that with looking at the structure and the restrooms.
Okay,
But I support the recommendation.
good. Commissioner Bryant?
Yes, I also support it. I would make a motion if I had the wording in front of me, but I don't. I think, yeah, I'm happy to make a motion. I'll just make a comment before I make the motion. I think the issue of maintenance is just critical. So certainly we should maintain if it means reconstruction, it means reconstruction, but in our strategic plan, I hope we have a lot of emphasis on maintenance, because building wonderful facilities, building wonderful parks is great. But unless we maintain them, they stop being wonderful after a certain time. So I'd like to see that even more solid than it is. Looking at our parks, seeing if they're still as attractive as they might be, and so on. So I'm looking forward to the strategic plan and to having plenty of time to talk about it. And I'll make a recommendation, I'll make a motion to forward a recommendation to the city council to appropriate $1,800,000 from the Parkland Dedication Fund to one project.
Second that.
Okay, motion is second. Commissioner Vichner, you have any comments?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. One, tapping onto what Commissioner Bryant said, do we have, and I can't remember, do you have like a massive spreadsheet with all city park assets on as rows and maintenance, potential maintenance requirements?
Just making a note to update you guys at the very end.
Yeah, year by year. So, you know, in 2030, we're gonna have to probably do this, and in 2035, we might have to do, I don't know, does something like that?
We do not, but we're working on it. So one of the things that when I got to the city, we don't have a work order software system. We do everything with paper and pencil. What that means is we also don't have an inventory of our assets. And so for the last year, we've been working on compiling an inventory of all our assets so we can get a software. Basically, IT told us that it was backwards if I got a software system and no inventory to load into it. So we have been compiling that. We're almost done, and we should be going out to RFP for a work order and asset management software, which will be loading in all those dates, and we can schedule action plans and replacements in that software. We should be going to RFP in 3-4 months. But we're also working in tandem with Public Works on this. So we're finding a software that works for Public Works, it works for CSD, and then being mindful that when we actually get software, that we're updating it and we're keeping it up to date, because you get software, and if you don't do that, then it just becomes antiquated real quick. So those are some of the things that we are looking at and moving towards.
Yeah, I mean, because that would help us a lot.
It would help us
Help you even more.
immensely.
Just because you'll have a chart and it says, okay, in the next 5 years, these things are probably coming up, and
Right.
things like retiling a pool that's 23 years old would have probably been on our radar.
We're having to look at plans, and if we have them, we're blowing dust off of them. And last time we replaced this? So it's been helpful with the new parks. We have that information and that data, but a lot of it's been done by interns we've had going out into the parks and basically documenting everything we have and trying to guess when it's been installed and how old it is. And
Give some examples of what's being inventoried.
Everything in our parks, water fountains, benches, play equipment, irrigation, and so all the buildings, all the infrastructure, we're capturing that and we're putting it into GIS. Our tree inventory is almost completely now up to date and accurate. So we have been working diligently on that and we're almost done with all of our parks and open space.
Yeah, because I could see that even, when you come to us with the annual budgets and there's the one-time stuff,
Mhm.
you could be pulling some things off that list rather than just the item that,
Guessing.
the item that just broke, right? Or
Right.
something like that. Just a quick question. Mr. England had mentioned bathrooms, and I'm trying to picture, I just can't picture the bathrooms. Do you have a comment on the bathrooms and whether that might be something that would be looked at as part of this, or is that, I can't remember exactly where they are with that.
Sure, they're on the exterior backside of the facility. So if you are at the entrance of the pool and you decide to walk around the exterior past the playground, they're on the right-hand side past the playground. I don't have data on when those were last renovated or looked at, but I can tell you, I've witnessed what I think Mr. England is mentioning. And so as we go through this process, we can take that into consideration or at least tee it up to our facilities division to see if there's something that they can do to work on that, whether that's with this project or separately.
Proceed with the vote.
All right. So would we want to include something to that effect in the motion or just rely on the?
I think I would just trust that
Yeah.
you'll you'll look at the whole area.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I just had a few, thoughts. One thing, regarding the fact that there's only this one item. As explained in the report, it's my understanding that the capital improvement program is a 2-year cycle, and this is really the second year. So typically there wouldn't be many items brought to us in the mid stage of that CIP. There's lots of things already on the capital improvement program that are funded. A lot of those are on the list that Director Marchant mentioned. So I'm not troubled by this being the only one. It was obviously bubbled to the top because of the critical nature and the fact that it could potentially put the pool out of commission if we don't start the process now. So I'm definitely supportive of the renovation. And I'm glad to hear that the city is working toward asset management and life cycle planning. A lot of agencies have, worked on paper like this for many years, and switching it over is a big task, but it's totally worth it. But it also does lead you to the need to manage and keep it updated, and also to the need to have that info while you're out in the field in your truck. And there's kind of this IT aspect that sometimes catches agencies by surprise. But we've got a motion and a second. Is there anyone else wish to
Yeah,
comment?
I would say an amendment or a addition to the resolution to a soft mention on the structure of the restroom would be appropriate. My experience is if things aren't codified in the motions and resolutions, they may or may not be covered. So it could
What is
just,
a soft mention?
well,
Like,
not an absolute, staff must do, but with consideration to looking at improvements to the restroom.
Do they fall under CSD?
I don't think so.
In their current condition, I would say we will start with our facilities division. And I will say that we recognized 2 years ago that part of the issue was there just wasn't enough airflow going through those restrooms, and it was creating some issues of that just not smelling well in there. And so we actually did open up, there was an opportunity to open up what used to be glass, and we pulled that out and just made it an air grate to get some of that in there. And so I think part of it is more, what's the word? Cosmetic, thank you. That's the word. Cosmetic compared to significant improvements.
Function, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think with us working with our facilities folks, we can take a look and determine what can be done.
And something else to note is we do work closely with our facilities maintenance division team. So if the pool is going to be closed for any type of maintenance, whether that's something we're working on mechanics or a larger project like this, we're going to let them know this is your window of time to come in and do any deferred maintenance that you haven't had a chance to do. The pool is one of those facilities, it's hard to find time to get in there because it's open all the time. So if there's an issue in the shower, we have to be strategic with working with facilities and our programs to find a time that can work, which is usually late afternoon when our facilities team has already gone home for the day. And so having this window of time where multiple weeks the facility is going to be closed for this project, we'll work with them closely to identify what else can you do while this is down so that we don't impact operations when we reopen. The restrooms on the exterior are separate from the facility. And so those can be looked at completely separate. I would be concerned if adding that into the project, that will be taking away funds from the needed maintenance related to the pool. And we may have to come back to ask for additional funds if significant work would need to be done. But I'd like to first engage with facilities to see if this is something they can do under their purview.
I'll withdraw that.
Okay.
recommendation. What are the hours
And
of
just-
accessibility of the restrooms? Are they,
For the park restrooms, they're open at 6 a.m. until 6:30 sunset.
okay, so it's normal park?
Yeah.
Just so I'm sure that I'm not getting confused, we're talking about the freestanding restroom building that's located near the children's play area. There's not
Yeah,
another restroom
correct.
inside the swim center building.
There are restrooms within the aquatic facility that are for those using the facility. And then on the exterior, there are what we call the park restrooms, which is the backside of the building that's available during the park hours.
So under this scenario, the facility restrooms that are accessed from the pool would probably also be closed along with
Yes.
the rest for construction, but
Mhm.
the park restrooms, which probably nobody using the pool would go out through the front entrance and use that restroom and then go back in, because they drip water everywhere and such. So those restrooms are sort of not related to the need for the pool renovation.
Correct.
Way, they may justify it in a regular manner, but I suppose that's what that new asset management software is for. So we're,
Can I make one?
one more comment? Sure.
So I think at the community center, you have added janitorial services.
Mhm.
And once one has public restrooms that are accessible, janitorial services are certainly something one needs. And the issue, Mr. England and bike people and other people too have commented quite a few times about the need for public restrooms. So the strategic plan, a good time to discuss public restrooms and janitorial services. I don't think it's appropriate right now with this specific project, but I'm looking forward to that also being a conversation we're having.
So we've got a motion by Commissioner Bryan, and I believe Commissioner Felios, you were the second.
Yes.
Are we ready for a roll call vote? Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryant.
Yes.
Chair Summer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis.
Yes.
Commissioner Felios.
Yes.
Great, the motion carries 5-0. We will now move on to item 6, commission and staff announcements, updates, requests, and committee reports. No action will be taken on these, it's just informational. Shall we start with the staff updates?
Sure, I'll go.
We'll go with you, then
We were gonna
we'll-
Rochambeau.
Yeah, we'll work down the line.
Yeah, okay. I will start with, our Parks and Recreation teams have been working together to add, amenities and programs to the Castro Street Ped Mall, including Adirondack chairs with our city logo. We've got some picnic tables with umbrellas, also with our cool city logo. And we're starting a cornhole league. I won't steal Colin's thunder. Coming soon, we're adding putt-putt golf, Connect Four, ping pong, this very cool inclusive movement game, and a toddler area. So really excited. More to come. Parks team has been working on an effort to relocate the off-leash dog area at Cooper Park. You probably saw my email earlier, from school district property to city property. This is in response to a request from the school district. We have been exploring different locations within Cooper Park, and we've also been engaging with residents. We created a web page that has some information about the effort and also has a short survey. You can find that on the city's website, the main page under Collaborate Mountain View. The survey will be active through the end of the month of May, and then we'll go from there. We'll take next steps and we'll keep you posted. The forestry team has received 200 requests for the Arbor Day tree giveaway program. We're accepting requests through August 1st, and then we'll begin delivery in late September. We hope to exceed 2023 numbers where we received 220 requests for trees. So we're going for seeing that number, I know. And the forestry team is working with Canopy staff to finalize the scope of services for fiscal year 24-25 Canopy agreement. We are enhancing our educational outreach and we are adding tree planting. So very excited about that. JP, the new-ish executive director, has been wonderful to work with. So Shoreline, the Friends of Stevens Creek Trail held a successful trail cleanup on Sunday, April 21st. We had more than 40 volunteers. They met at the Wisman Trailhead and they worked to clear trash, debris, and weeds along the trail. And the Shoreline athletic fields have been repaired and reopened after the copper wire theft. And I'm not going to even talk about biodiversity because I'm so excited. I'm like about to burst the seams, but I'm really excited to bring you a very comprehensive update at the next meeting. And there's a lot in the works and I'm really excited and it's actually really happening. So more to come at the June meeting.
Thanks.
Yes.
So I will move on to the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan, which has been mentioned several times this evening. We have spent the last few months completing a lot of our public input through the statistically reliable survey, which you were aware of, as well as the community-wide survey. So in March, the statistically reliable survey was mailed to 3,500 households within Mountain View. And over a 2-week period, they received 450 responses, which was the desired sample size that they were hoping to receive back. And so we haven't actually received the report from this yet, but we're hoping to receive it in the next few weeks so that we can review it with the consultant. In the month of April, we launched that same survey through the community-wide survey. I'm very excited to share. We had 1,371 responses to that survey. And 103 of those responses were in other languages than English. So that would be Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. So between the March survey and the April survey, that's 1,821 responses to help shape our future needs. So we're waiting right now for all that data to be analyzed and compiled by the consultant. We're hoping to receive that soon for us to then review and take in. And then the next steps is they'll be coming back in late June for another round of community meetings. So we'll be offering an in-person meeting as well as a virtual meeting. And at those meetings, they're going to share their findings from not only the community-wide survey, the public input process since August, their site and program assessments, and sharing more of what's to come and what the next steps are. And as you are aware, we have scheduled a July 1st Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, which thank you for being available for that. The consultant will share that same presentation from the community meeting, as well as any additional feedback that we received at those meetings with the Parks and Recreation Commission that evening. And I believe over the summer, we're gonna start really getting into all the data and the recommendations and come back to the PRC in the fall with some items for you to weigh in on. So we're really looking forward to crossing over the community input process. So with that, I will hand it off to Recreation Manager Colin James.
Thank you. I'm not saying that your guys' stuff wasn't fun, but here comes the fun stuff. So on April 27th, we had the rescheduled Multicultural Festival due to rain that was scheduled for March 23rd. We had a lot of great community booths come out. They decorated each one of the booths. It was beautiful. We had performances, we had dancers, spoken word, and music acts. And again, the weather was fantastic for that date. Coming up, we have the Kids Stock Series kicking off on May 18th with Ashiba. And these events will be on the third Saturday of May, June, and July. And then we are 1 month in on Music on Castro. And these are every Wednesday performances, music performances on Castro Street on the 200 block from 5 to 6:45 p.m. And then we have concerts on the plaza kicking off on June 7th with the Cheese Balls. If you haven't seen the Cheese Balls, they are fantastic and it's a great way to kick off the series. And that'll run through September 27th. And then we also have Teen Week is next week on Monday. If you're around, check out the art showcase downstairs in the rotunda from 5:30 to 7. It's excellent. And then, as Brenda mentioned, we are starting a cornhole league for the first time, and that'll be downtown on the 300 block. It's going to be Thursday nights. It starts June 13th and it will run through July 25th. No games on the week of July 4th, though. So that'll include playoffs and a championship round. So very similar to our adults softball league, but cornhole downtown, so it should be fun.
What time for that?
Game times are 5:45, 6:15, 6:45, and 7:15. So Thursday nights.
Wonderful. Do you have anything
And
further?
I have stuff you already know about, but this is also for those that are online and here this evening. As far as upcoming agenda items, so for June, we will be receiving a presentation from the nonprofit Canopy. We will be, as Brenda said, receiving a biodiversity projects update. We will be talking about the pickleball feasibility study and looking at some of the findings and recommendations, and then working on our annual work plan for the next fiscal year. And then we will have a special meeting in July scheduled for 6 p.m. compared to the regular 7 p.m. This is to review the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan update, looking at some of the rec programs, financial assistance program, cost recovery, and then a review of some options that the city is looking at for a recycled water reservoir in the North Bay Shore. So those two items are currently on the agenda for July.
And we do have one thing in June. I'm not sure if I was supposed to add it, but Green Spaces MB will be doing a presentation, an annual presentation on the Cuesta pollinator habitat for us.
And then can I just confirm that the current plan is for no August meeting?
At the moment, yes.
Okay.
And remind me, will there be another July meeting? Okay, so July
July 1st.
1st, and then we go till
September. And as of now, we have a estimated timeline of returning back to the community center for PRC meetings this fall. So we'll keep you updated as the equipment gets delivered and starts being installed.
Great, thank you. Are there any commission?
Just,
announcements?
I have two questions related. Number one, a lot of us, I'm assuming maybe all of us, have been alerted to the fact of a tree issue. And there are very interested parties and are kind of wondering what the timeline is. And so not to pin you down
It's okay. That's
completely,
okay.
but do we anticipate that at what time do you think?
Probably in the fall.
In the fall, okay.
Yeah. We have a pretty stacked couple heavy agendas coming up for this group. And so we also need to, reach out to the property owner. We've been in discussions with them and just we're still digging into some of the information.
And we trust the tree will still be there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I was just.
Oh, yeah.
all right. The second one is, we've certainly been inundated with a lot of pickleball interest. And is this room big enough to handle a meeting with the number of people that have been interested with regards to the pickleball study?
Very good question. We need to take a look at that. But the last time that the PRC did discuss the pickleball project, we did have a lot of our dedicated attendees online for that. And so that could be something that we just remind them of the space within this room and to log in online if there's no other venue available.
Are they informed, those that registered that this is coming up?
Yes, yeah, we had a very successful community meeting with about 70 people in attendance. And during that meeting, we did outline what the next steps are, which included coming to the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting this spring.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so following up on that, another good reason to be able to have the bigger area in the fall is once we get into the guts of strategic plan
Mhm.
stuff, I would hope that there'll be a number of people that would want to come to. And the bigger presentation is nice.
Thank you.
Any further commission comments or
I do.
announcements? Sure, go ahead, Commissioner.
So
Ryan.
I missed the multicultural event and the rained out event was on my calendar, but I somehow missed seeing an announcement of when it was going to happen. The last time I remember was to be determined. So
That may have been a misstep on our part to make sure that it got on your calendar. So we'll make sure that if for some reason we do have to cancel an event again in the future, that we make sure we go full circle.
okay, but I've subscribed on so many newsletters. I was just.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it was
I think I saw
promoted.
it a few times.
Yeah, it was
Well,
promoted
and
through the City Hall connection as well as through the different recreation announcement vehicles that we have. It's really difficult, first of all, to make the decision to cancel event, but it's probably even more difficult to reschedule the event. And making sure that you cross all your Ts and dot all your Is. For example, some of the marketing that we had access to for the original date, such as the bus shelters on Castro, we had to remove those to replace with the upcoming events. And so we weren't able to do all of the same marketing that we were able to do the first time around. But we did try to hit up everything that we possibly could to get the word out.
And then I had a comment about the Castro Street city offerings. First, I want to compliment you because like the block, I think it's the 200 block, which really doesn't have very much there, but the city has filled it. And the 300 block too, the pots and the games. And whenever I'm on Castro and I'm there frequently at different times of day, they're always filled with people and children playing. It's wonderful. My one question is, and it doesn't have to be answered now. Who is responsible for this? There's the council downtown or downtown pedestrian mall group or whatever they're called. Then there's the businesses that don't seem to be hugely involved from just my ignorant look. And then there's a city, and I wonder, is there coordinated work happening there? What is the entry point for the community to say, it would be lovely to have this, or I saw this happening in one city, could we have that? Where is the forum or something like that could happen?
Right now, we are in the interim ped mall phase. There will be a permanent ped mall. And that is where we will be engaging the community. Right now, we're just testing out stuff. We're filling spaces in the meantime where it's just, we're in this like holding pattern. It has been quite a dance trying to implement some of these new processes and policies with the businesses. Some are very engaged, some aren't. So our public works director keeps calling it, we're in the interim. She keeps saying that. And so we're like, so not interim. And so we're just in a testing phase right now. And we're trying these games. Some of them are working, some of them aren't, where we're putting different amenities. We're trying to fill those spaces where businesses are empty, so that they look programmed and there's activity there. If you have ideas, please let us know. We're completely open. I just got back from a conference and I saw this inclusive game it's like Simon for anybody that's my age group, the old game Simon. It's like that, and it's a completely inclusive game, and it kind of takes up a nice real estate so we can put it in front of a business that's empty. But we're gonna try it. We're gonna see if it works, see if people gravitate to it. And then if it doesn't, it's something that we probably would leave off of the permanent peg mall or not, engage in that.
In addition, the downtown committee does have this as a regular agenda item. And so as far as like an advisory body, the general public or businesses can look at the downtown committee agendas, and it's usually that standing item that can be brought up there too.
There's a problem with permanent malls since the permanent undercrossing has who knows what, so I hope the mall isn't waiting for the undercrossing to be resolved. Because, okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's waiting for the grade
No,
separation.
no, it's not.
Thank you.
All right. Any further commission announcements or updates, requests? Okay, I think at this point, we're ready to move to item 7, adjournment. So I will now adjourn the meeting at 8:01.